I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute. Alaska Airlines flights are back in the air following a brief grounding of all flights nationwide. This is a look at SFO, where dozens of flights were held for departure this morning. The airline told us this was all due to a computer issue. Lockdown in San Francisco County Jail on 7th Street, that is being lifted today. The lockdown came after multiple reports of inmates attacking staff over the weekend and overcrowding. The lockdown at the San Bruno Jail, that will be lifted later on this week. 5 Google workers were arrested after staging a sit-in at their office in Sunnyvale. Workers were protesting the company's cloud project's contract with the Israeli military. The workers live-streamed their sit-in inside the cloud CEO's office. Police arrested them for trespassing. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
It's one of the warmest days we've had so far here in the Bay Area, as high pressure sitting directly offshore, driving in some really warm temperatures, winds from the north, and a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours today. But let's dive right back into those temperatures. For everyone in our inland areas who's thinking, is this summer already? Well, in a way, it kind of feels like that. I mean, we're talking about 80s this afternoon, putting us about 5 to 10 degrees above average throughout most of the Bay, and getting a good look at our local communities. 71 in San Francisco. This is a treat for us throughout this afternoon. Upper 60s along our coast. We'll see a little bit of those clouds kind of holding on tight to our coastline and just along the Bay shoreline. But for our inland areas, plenty of sunshine into this afternoon, topping off in the 80s today, just near San Jose. Now, we're going to see 80s in the forecast again tomorrow in our inland areas, but that's not going to be the case as we head into this weekend. We'll get a little bit of a cold front moving its way in by early next week, bringing in more clouds, a light chance of showers late next week, but for now we're remaining dry. And that's kind of the reason why our pollen count is still high. We're in that medium to high category all throughout this afternoon, lasting into the rest of this week. So as I suggest you do all those outdoor activities, also just take it slow for your loved ones who do have allergies and they suffer from that as well. Now, once we head into the rest of this week, we'll see a little bit of a cool down, not by much. We're still flirting with the upper 70s and lower 80s throughout the rest of this week in our inland areas. Partly cloudy skies quickly turning into sunshine by Sunday and Monday. And get a good look at the Bay. A very similar trend for anyone who lives close to San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge over into Oakland. We're holding on tight to the 60s and 70s into this weekend. Partly cloudy skies to kick off next week as well.
Well, in San Francisco, where a county jail lockdown being lifted today. Meanwhile, another lockdown at the San Bruno jail, that won't be lifted until later this week. This comes after multiple reports of inmates attacking staff over the weekend. The San Francisco Sheriff's Department blames the recent spike in violence on staffing shortages and overcrowding at both county jails. Now deputies and their union are asking the National Guard for assistance. Our Katie Nielsen has the sheriff's response.
We don't feel that this is a exigent circumstance that would require that at this time. The recent uptick in the assaults on our staff is something I believe that we can handle internally.
Increased violence in the San Francisco County jails is something both the deputies union and the sheriff agree on. Both acknowledge the situation has gotten worse. In 2023, there were 240 reported inmate fights, a 58% increase from the year before. What they don't agree on is the cause. Sheriff Paul Miyamoto says inmates are getting more violent due to the jails getting overcrowded now that the pandemic protocols have eased.
There's insufficient space for us to be able to spread those individuals out and create a more calm environment for people to reside in our housing units.
But on Saturday, the union president sent a letter to the sheriff requesting the deployment of the National Guard to temporarily supplement current staffing levels, saying, quote, "Our current staffing levels are insufficient to support the well-being of our personnel." According to numbers provided by the Sheriff's Department, there are almost 1,200 inmates in San Francisco's jails on any given day. There are supposed to be about 500 deputies assigned to the jails, but due to staffing shortages, there are currently 364 working.
Although we are short-staffed, we don't believe that is one of the primary factors.
The sheriff says they will be addressing the violence in a number of ways, including lockdowns like those that went into place over the weekend, as well as increased communication with inmates within the pods and continued discussion among command staff in terms of de-escalation techniques. He also acknowledged the inmate population is becoming increasingly difficult.
Those that remain in custody here in San Francisco are mostly serious violent offenders who are charged with serious violent crimes. and who remain in our custody for extended lengths of time.
We asked the union president why there's such a disconnect on the root cause of the problem. He believes it's all about money.
They're treating it like a common business where you can make simple cuts or simple staffing cuts. But when you do this in public safety, it affects people's lives. Lives are in danger.
He also said understaffing leads to deputies working mandatory overtime, which in turn leads to burnout. So even the deputies who are there are not always at their best. In San Mateo County, the first of 3 motion hearings was held in Scott Peterson's bid to have his 2004 murder convictions overturned. Peterson appeared remotely through Zoom in a Redwood City courtroom on Tuesday. The judge dismissed the first motion to seal proceedings in the case, which would have shielded the identities of potential witnesses for Peterson's defense. Peterson was convicted for killing his wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor in 2002. The Los Angeles Innocence Project recently took up Peterson's case. They say some key evidence was ignored.
So they're laying the groundwork right now in making these preliminary motions to get the information that will provide the gravamen, the heart of this motion for a new trial.
A second motion for post-conviction DNA testing, that is scheduled for May 29th. The third motion for a trial discovery is scheduled for July 19th. Union City Police are looking for the suspects who robbed a mail carrier at gunpoint. USPS is offering a $150,000 reward for information. This all happened on Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This happened near Regents and Union City Boulevard. The mail carrier was taken to the hospital with minor injuries and is expected to recover. Last month, a mail carrier in Oakland was robbed of her postal keys. There's also a reward for more information leading to that suspect. Mail theft is both a federal and a state crime. New speed cameras in San Francisco got the green light from transit officials whose cameras would automatically send tickets to speeding drivers. They are set to go in some of the city's most dangerous areas for pedestrians. John Ramos went to one of those intersections where reaction was mixed.
The idea is to put 33 automated cameras around the city in places like this that are determined to be of either high risk or chronic violation.
The most speed-violated road is Harrison between 4th and 5th Streets. Data shows that nearly 1 out of every 4 cars is traveling at least 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. The limit on the 5-lane street is 25 miles per hour because of a school located in the middle of the block. Priyanka Marwaha feels it is a prime location for a speed camera.
I really feel that there is a need for people to be more aware of the fact that they need to keep their speed down. It's not a highway. I know it's next to a highway, but still there are houses here, there are apartments here, people are moving all around.
The proposal would make San Francisco part of a statewide pilot program installing cameras that send automated citations to the owners of cars that violate the speed limit by 10 or more miles per hour.
San Franciscans are generally pretty excited about these speed cameras, and it's because we're all feeling how much things have changed on our streets, how dangerous it's become because so many drivers are pushing beyond the limit.
But not everyone is feeling that way. Alexis Jimenez says she trusts the instincts of the average city driver and thinks the cameras would be more appropriate on the freeways.
But streets like this, I think, shouldn't be, it's just too much control, too much unnecessary fining. I think everyone in the Bay Area generally, as a driver myself, knows what the limitations are, when to speed, when to not speed. So I think just kind of policing that is unnecessary.
Mitch Washington suspects it would be less about safety and more about the fines.
5 or 10 miles above the speed limit happens all the time, whether it's on the freeway or off the freeway. And you're just gonna, if it really helps, I'm all for it. But if it's just to make money on unsuspecting motorists, then no, I'm against it completely.
And Michelle Anderson seems skeptical about the whole idea.
I would probably end up in traffic court or wherever. I think that's just too, no. What is the magic number 10 miles over? I mean, what if they were going 5 miles over? And
Actually, the city of Chicago tried lowering the threshold of their cameras from 10 miles per hour to 6, and the citations exploded. At one intersection, tickets soared from just over 500 to 15,000. That's probably an indication of how differently people drive than the letter of the law dictates.
Director Heminger.
Aye.
Heminger, aye. Director Henderson.
Aye.
Still, with Muni's unanimous vote,
Thank you. That item is approved.
San Francisco seems headed to begin issuing robo-tickets as a way to change behavior on the city's streets.
That issue now heads to the Board of Supervisors for final approval. The program will be managed by the Transportation Authority, not the Police Department. If enacted, Muni expects to get its first cameras up and running sometime in 2025. Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, Alameda County's DA, Pamela Price, will face a recall. The push now for a special election as soon as possible, despite the cost. Plus, people who live in East San Jose are worried about losing their trauma center. How one woman said the location that's set to close saved her life. And it's a new look for an old San Francisco neighborhood, how designers hope tech can open the window to progress for struggling storefronts.
I'm a pilot for the California Army National Guard. I fly Blackhawks here in the state.
There is nothing that Jessica Birch can't do.
She is dedicated. She's super fun.
Jessica is remarkable.
I like the idea of being able to serve the Northern Californian people out doing search and rescues, helping out with CAL FIRE missions. And I also feel like I have a heart for service also when it comes to forecasting for our local area. I mean, getting people prepared for their day. That's a huge importance for me.
Wake up with a morning edition, weekdays on KPIX.
It's a beautiful warm day for us here in the Bay Area with a mix of sun and clouds and 80s all throughout our inland areas from Concord stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. Looking at the next 7 days, we will get a little bit of a cool down, sunshine lasting into this weekend as well, and we kind of see a similar setup for our friends along the Bay too. Now, if you live near San Francisco or Oakland, you're going to notice more 60s as early as Friday, returning into the Bay Area. But let's take a quick look at what's happening past that, because heading into the next couple days, we're still dealing with dry skies. High pressure is keeping us warm, it's keeping us dry. There's not a chance of showers in the forecast throughout the next 7 days. But looking past the next 7 days, the Weather Prediction Center and the Climate Prediction Center is showing what are the normal conditions. And that starts around April 24th, April 25th. So we're going to keep a close eye on this map as we get closer, because right now we're dealing with these dry skies. And hey, the Bay Area is definitely not complaining.
Well, the group trying to oust Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price is pushing for a recall vote as soon as possible after securing just enough signatures to get the issue on the ballot. Critics accuse Price of being soft on crime, light on the charges she brings against criminal suspects. Homicides, burglaries, car break-ins have dropped significantly, though, during her time in office, while robberies, though, they're up about 28%. Our Amanda Harry spoke to recall organizers about what happens next.
Save Alameda for Everyone collected about 120,000 signatures. 50,000 of those were disqualified, but they still met the minimum threshold for a recall, and they say they're confident the voters will be on their side.
We, the voters, have the right to hire you, but we are also the people who can fire you.
That was the message Tuesday as the group Save Alameda for Everyone, or SAFE, announced a monumental step in their efforts to remove Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price from her position. Enough signatures were verified by the County Registrar of Voters to initiate the recall.
But had one over what we needed, that would have been just fine.
Principal officer with SAFE, Brenda Grisham, says she's not concerned about the number of signatures that were invalid. SAFE says many of those signatures were disqualified because the person did not list their occupation. But now their focus is getting a special election.
What's going on in the district attorney's office is directly affecting the crime because they're not prosecuting to the full extent of the law.
Citywide crime data for Oakland says overall crime is down this year, but violent crimes are up 10%. It's a statistic Virginia Nishida is all too familiar with.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful because I can't grieve.
It's been 2.5 years since Virginia's husband, Kevin, was shot and killed in downtown Oakland. Since that day, Nishida has continued to fight for justice instead of processing her husband's death.
A reminder to me of what happened and how they speak of it, how the defense attorney speaks of the crime. It's as if he deserved to be shot. And that is what I'm really upset about.
Nishida says with Price in office, she's worried.
These guys that did it are criminals. They're repeat criminals. They've been in prison. They've been in jail. They have done violent things. They should be off the streets.
Pamela Price's lawyer said in a statement that they believe the recall is illegal. They say law requires the signatures must be counted in 10 days. It took more than a month. They also say that some signatures were collected by non-Alameda County residents. In addition, Price's office says a recall election is a poor use of possibly $20 million.
You need to find that money. You've had since last year.
Election code says the County Board of Supervisors needs to accept the receipts of the verified signatures. It also says that special election would have to happen no more than 125 days from that meeting. So November would be too late. Nishida says having the special election sooner is essential.
Not just in my case, but in other cases as well, that we get justice for our loved ones.
Organizers are hoping when this does get on the ballot, voters will be able to vote for a replacement DA at that time as well.
At the same time, opponents of Oakland Mayor Shane Tower are also gathering signatures for another potential recall campaign. People in East San Jose are rallying to keep their local trauma center from closing. Jose Martinez was there as one former patient told the Board of Supervisors the minutes she saved having the hospital so close likely saved her life.
Sharon Martinez told the crowd at Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting she might not be here today if the East San Jose Regional Trauma Center hadn't been there for her back in 2019 when she suffered a brain hemorrhage.
I had a stroke, and I told my husband to call 911.
She says the fact that her house in Milpitas is less than 15 minutes away from the hospital was a game changer.
The surgeon that operated on me told me that when he first saw me, he didn't know that he could save me. So I was going. Excuse me. And I want them to hear what they're doing is not going to work because they will try to do everything far away. There's not that much time.
She's urging Regional not to go through with the plan to close its trauma center in August. The hospital says it's not seeing enough patients to justify keeping it open. That will leave Valley Medical Center about 20 minutes away as the next closest option for patients like Sharon and her husband Benjamin.
To feel that we have a medical support system out there that can help us if something goes wrong. I don't know what's going to happen if something happens to me. You know,
we won't have any help.
A county report shows Regional sees nearly 2,500 trauma patients per year. Shutting down the trauma center would mean patients experiencing emergencies like heart attacks or strokes would have to travel much farther for care.
This is a public safety issue for the entire community. It directly impacts the people who live, work, and play around the east side of San Jose near the Regional Medical Center, because that's the closest emergency room, that's the closest level 2 trauma center. It's the closest place you can go to get stroke intervention. So that's why it's such a big impact there. But all of those patients will have to go to other emergency rooms. So
the other option, Stanford, is even further away, at least 45 minutes depending on traffic.
Closure of these services will cause an immediate cascade of negative effects, not only for the communities around Regional, which will be most impacted, but for the whole county. Increased demand for transfers out of their emergency department, more need for ambulances, longer wait times, congestion over there, as Paul was saying. And our shared community and its most vulnerable members will be disproportionately affected, our communities of color and those with less socioeconomic means.
For now, Sharon and her husband say they'll keep showing up to other hearings if they have to keep sharing their story.
There's good things about what did happen to me. My neurological surgeon was excellent. He really saved my life.
One of the things.
Well, after hours of public comment, the board forwarded the county report to the state, urging the Department of Health Services to step in and help block the closure. Still ahead, inspiring community and cultivating a new spirit in the old San Francisco neighborhood.
To have a beautiful storefront or assets that help cultivate that brand, it's only going to uplift other people. I feel like this is a neighborhood that's the last of real San Francisco.
How designers are using tech to inspire a business bounce back for struggling storefronts. And a reminder, you can stream CBS News Bay Area wherever, whenever. Catch all of our live newscasts plus news and weather updates throughout the day. Find us on the free CBS News app or on Pluto TV.
Positive energy is so important for us to do what we do every single morning. And like a family, we're building each other up. How can we get the best Reed? How can we get the best Gianna? And of course, the best Jessica and Nicole. I just want to make sure that every single day our viewers tune in and they're getting something authentic, genuine, and real. What you see on air, that's me, that's Reed, that's Gianna. That's who we are when the lights are turned off.
Wake up with a morning edition, weekdays on KPIX.
Well, it's one of the warmest days of the year so far. We're talking about upper 70s and lower 80s as high pressure is parked just offshore of our California coastline, bringing in all this warmth, a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours today. A light breeze moving in from the north, and if you live along the coast near Half Moon Bay, you're in one of the coolest spots all throughout the Bay Area, lasting into the afternoon and evening hours tonight with a little bit more cloud coverage close to our coastline. Now, interestingly enough, we're going to hold on tight to this weather for just a little bit longer tomorrow. Daytime highs remain above average today and tomorrow. We're sitting in the 80s near San Jose, and let's actually pick on San Jose real fast. Using you guys as an example, all of us throughout the Bay will start to cool down into early next week, but for now, we're seeing dry skies and a beautiful opportunity to get out there, do any outdoor activities, and get some fresh air.
Well, in San Francisco, a community project is being celebrated in the city's Excelsior district to support small businesses and help them bounce back in their own neighborhood. Sean Chidnis has more on how artificial intelligence is helping revitalize the look of businesses to get people back on the block.
A design company is using AI technology to help small businesses here in the Excelsior district improve their storefronts, making them more inviting and attention-getting. It's a method that they have used in other parts of the city as well as in Spain. The appeal of the Excelsior district to coffee shop owner Leah Sabado was in the history of this neighborhood, a chance to add her family's story to one of the most diverse communities in the city.
I wanted to settle and lay roots in a foundation for myself as a woman of color, a multiracial background, and I have kids now.
When she and her husband saw the chance to build a business here, offering a coffee shop experience no one else was providing on this block, they went for it.
Hey, if we don't do it, someone else might. At least we can represent the cultures where we come from and do it our way with the connection.
And almost 5 years later, it's having an impact. Some of their first customers are so loyal, they even own shirts that celebrate Excelsior coffee.
We love it. It's a very vibrant neighborhood. Tons of families here and just a super diverse group of people.
So when the opportunity to get some help to dress up the storefronts on Mission Street came to businesses like Leia's, many jumped at the chance. You can see the impact already next door, where a restaurant has new exteriors and interiors thanks to the Free Pick Neighborhood Design Project. The company uses AI to help designers create renderings for the revitalization work it's doing on this street.
To have a beautiful storefront or assets that help cultivate that brand, it's only going to uplift other people and garner attention and curiosity.
The goal is to bring more people to the neighborhood, making it a place residents and visitors can gather while also increasing business for these stores. Leah says for some shops, their facade tells their story and has to do the work of a website they may not have up and running yet.
I feel like this is a neighborhood that's the last of real San Francisco.
A new look for an old soul in the city that residents and business owners believe has a charm and character worth preserving. And on this block, we can see some of the businesses that have already benefited from this project and others that still hope to be a part of it. Excelsior Coffee is one of those, and it's coming at a time where they hope to expand by becoming a roaster as well as adding more food and drink options to their location.
Well, coming up in our next half hour in CBS News Bay Area, protesters who brought traffic to a standstill on the Golden Gate Bridge now out of jail to debate over what punishment they should face. And it's a new kind of program taking root right here in the Bay Area. How gardeners can get some help from a place you, well, wouldn't normally expect.
These are your neighborhoods. This is your world. CBS News Bay Area.
And still ahead on KPI.
With Juliette Goodrich. And the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. Taking you to the day's top stories. Smart, comprehensive coverage. And immersive weather like you have never seen it. Join Juliette Goodrich and Nora O'Donnell. Weeknights 6 to 7:30 on KPIX.
I'm Ryan Yamamoto, and this is The Minute. New speed cameras have been approved by transit officials in San Francisco and now heads to the Board of Supervisors for final approval. If finalized, they will be added to the city's most dangerous areas for pedestrians. These would automatically send tickets to speeding drivers. DNA evidence from the Alameda Oakland estuary matches that of a missing elderly woman. 74-year-old Q Tron was reported missing by her son-in-law, 40-year-old Phuc Vu, back in September. He also reported his wife, Tho Lee, was missing. He's in custody and charged with 2 counts of homicide. Kate Pay will now lead the women's basketball program at Stanford. Her promotion is expected to be made official later today. She spent 2 decades as an assistant coach for the team. She replaces Tara Vanderveer, who retired after 38 seasons and with 3 national titles.
It's one of the warmest days we've had so far here in the Bay Area, as high pressure sitting directly offshore, driving in some really warm temperatures, winds from the north, and a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours today. But let's dive right back into those temperatures. For everyone in our inland areas who's thinking, is this summer already? Well, in a way, it kind of feels like that. I mean, we're talking about 80s this afternoon, putting us about 5 to 10 degrees above average throughout most of the Bay, and getting a good look at our local communities. 71 in San Francisco. This is a treat for us throughout this afternoon. Upper 60s along our coast. We'll see a little bit of those clouds kind of holding on tight to our coastline and just along the Bay shoreline. But for our inland areas, plenty of sunshine into this afternoon, topping off in the 80s today, just near San Jose. Now, we're going to see 80s in the forecast again tomorrow in our inland areas, but that's not going to be the case as we head into this weekend. We'll get a little bit of a cold front moving its way in by early next week, bringing in more clouds, a light chance of showers late next week, but for now we're remaining dry, and that's kind of the reason why our pollen count is still high. We're in that medium to high category all throughout this afternoon, lasting into the rest of this week. So as I suggest you do all those outdoor activities, also just take it slow for your loved ones who do have allergies and they suffer from that as well. Now, once we head into the rest of this week, we'll see a little bit of a cool down, not by much. We're still flirting with the upper 70s and lower 80s throughout the rest of this week in our inland areas. Partly cloudy skies quickly turning into sunshine by Sunday and Monday. And get a good look at the Bay. A very similar trend for anyone who lives close to San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge over into Oakland. We're holding on tight to the 60s and 70s into this weekend. Partly cloudy skies to kick off next week as well.
Well, to Sunnyvale, where police broke up another protest over the war in Gaza, this one at the Google office. 5 Google workers were arrested last night while staging a sit-in inside their boss's office. They were live streaming when the cops moved in. It all started with a larger demonstration outside. The protesters are objecting to a Google Cloud contract with the Israeli government called Project Nimbus. Eventually, a few workers took it inside to the Cloud CEO office, where they were arrested for trespassing. Google told us in a statement that physically impeding other employees' work is a clear policy violation, adding that the employees are now on leave with no access to company systems while they investigate. More than 24 protesters who blocked the Golden Gate Bridge as part of a day of disruption are out of jail. They were released in the evening yesterday after San Francisco's district attorney says she's not ready to file charges and is sending the case back to the CHP for further investigation.
We must make sure that public safety is observed in San Francisco, and that is what we are committed to doing. But at this time, we have to wait for this investigation to be completed.
It is now up to the DA in the Alameda County in San Francisco to weigh charges against 38 protesters arrested for shutting down part of 880 and the Golden Gate Bridge yesterday as part of a nationwide protest against the war in Gaza. The CHP suggested the protesters could face serious charges for their tactics like chaining themselves to cars and concrete barrels. Wilson Walker was outside the San Francisco jail where supporters of the protesters showed up yesterday in solidarity.
Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! What they're trying to charge them with, it is criminal to charge them!
At this time, we anticipate having to send the case back to the CHP for continued investigation.
District Attorney Brooke Jenkins says it was that felony charge of conspiracy that required her to take action within 48 hours And building a case like that, she says, would take more time.
We have to be able to attribute specific conduct to specific individuals.
She also said that none of those arrested Monday were among those arrested last year on the Bay Bridge. The agreement in that case required those defendants to stay out of trouble, and Jenkins sought to clear the record on that agreement.
That was not an offer by the prosecution. That was an offer by the judge, which they accepted. And so we played no role in that agreement that was formed between the court and those defendants.
Now, the felony charge could also land at a judge's discretion, but Jenkins says her office is pursuing the case, and she even added this.
Anyone who was falsely imprisoned on the Golden Gate Bridge on April 15th, 2024 is urged to contact the California Highway Patrol.
I'm proud of the CHP. It wasn't easy work.
And the governor addressed the demonstration today, saying while he, quote, respects the cause.
I don't think that's helpful, and I don't think that's responsible. I think there are better ways of protesting. So, no, I hope we don't see it again, and I do think people need to be held to account for their actions.
Just to round out every level of government, Justice Samuel Alito invoked the Golden Gate Bridge protest at a hearing at the Supreme Court involving a January 6th case. So a lot of attention to what's going on here. What happens next? Well, District Attorney Brooke Jenkins says the further review of this case, the further investigation should take perhaps just a matter of days.
And we brought you continuing live coverage of the protest shutdowns on air and streaming on CBS News Bay Area. We also have continuing coverage on our website at kpix.com. And in Southern California, USC officials canceled the commencement speech of the college's valedictorian. The school says the move was made because of security concerns, saying threats against the student who has expressed support online for Palestinians have reached an alarming rate. Asna Tabassum would have delivered her speech on May 10th, but critics raised concerns with the administration over her pro-Palestinian posts online, some calling them even hate speech. The university says there's now security risks to the ceremony. She says she is shocked and disappointed.
Although it is a privilege for me to speak at commencement, what I see this as is the university is caving into hatred. It's rewarding bigotry.
Students on campus are calling the university to re-invite Tabassum to speak at their graduation.
Obviously, there's now a lot of pushback coming from students, including myself, because they are silencing a brown hijabi woman's voice, first generation STEM, from speaking at our commencement when she rightfully earned that position.
The Council on American Islamic Relations is also calling on the university to reverse its decision. Up next, the Warriors playoff run is now over. We heard from Dub fans at Thrive City how they're already looking to next season.
I would like to see the headlines that the national press picks up on and say, look, there's another side to the Bay Area.
We take those headlines a little step further to sort of connect all these wonderful communities here.
Really embracing the positivity and hopefully spreading it.
The Bay Area is full of some amazing, innovative change makers.
People that are out there making a difference.
In fact, I feel privileged that I get to share those stories.
Wake up with the Morning Edition, weekdays on KPIX.
It's a beautiful warm day for us here in the Bay Area with a mix of sun and clouds and 80s all throughout our inland areas from Concord stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. Looking at the next 7 days, we will get a little bit of a cool down, sunshine lasting into this weekend as well. And we kind of see a similar setup for our friends along the bay too. Now, if you live near San Francisco or Oakland, you're going to notice more 60s as early as Friday, returning into the Bay Area. But let's take a quick look at what's happening past that, because heading into the next couple days, we're still dealing with dry skies. High pressure is keeping us warm. It's keeping us dry. There's not a chance of showers in the forecast throughout the next 7 days. But looking past the next 7 days, the Weather Prediction Center and the Climate Prediction Center is showing wetter than normal conditions. And that starts around April 24th, April 25th. So we're going to keep a close eye on this map as we get closer, because right now we're dealing with these dry skies. And hey, the Bay Area is definitely not complaining.
Well, we held out hope the Warriors could go on another run this year, but their season is now over. Fans are at Thrive City last night to cheer on their Doves to their play-in game with the Kings in Sacramento. And for the second time in less than a year, the Warriors and Kings met in Sacramento at the Golden One Center in a winner-go-home game. But it was a much different story than last year's Game 7. Our Lauren Toms was with the fans at the big watch party over at Thrive City, where the mood changed quickly as that game went on.
Disappointed fans here at Thrive City who were hoping that this win or go home game would end in, well, a win. But fans stuck it out through the bitter end, and their eyes already set on next season.
Man, it's heartbreaking. You know, it broke my heart, you know, but hey, it's still Dub Nation. Still Dub Nation for life. You already know I'll be here next season.
A roller coaster of an evening here nonetheless, and as Sacramento acquires more Bay Area talent, some fans say a rivalry may be heating up.
It's all about Bay Area love. Sacramento is about like 3 hours away, but guess what? Kings, y'all too young. It's our turn. The Lakers rivalry comes first, and then second, the Sacramento Kings. Yeah.
I shouldn't be too surprised, but still, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sad.
And Warriors fans tonight stayed through the bitter end, at times pumped up by the sounds of Bay Area favorite E40, trying to ease some of that nail-biting tension. And as for this fan, he says that his Warriors fandom is only just getting started.
Well, some Bay Area libraries are offering more than just books. One San Francisco library is serving up seeds. As Ann Makovic reports, it's an effort to encourage a more eco-friendly life.
We're going to scatter the seeds in between the cilantro.
For Cody Reynolds, gardening is more than a passion, it's a way of life.
Planting seeds of hope for the future.
Because with each seed planted, there's a harvest yet to come.
So when these are sprouted, you get these. And I think we have some flowers down at this side.
His fascination with growing started when he was young, and marijuana was illegal.
I got in trouble for growing cannabis, and so I decided I better let my friends grow cannabis, and I'll grow food.
Now he works as the garden manager at this senior center in the Bayview, growing everything from vegetables to flowers, and then saving their seeds.
Truly, to maintain your own power within your garden by closing a link, meaning that you don't have to go to the store. You can go right here and say, oh, we're going to plant sweet peas.
Now he has a new way to share those seeds and also try some new strains, all with the help of his local public library. The Bayview branch just introduced its newest collection in an old-school card catalog, the Seed Lending Library.
It helps close the gap for young gardeners and older gardeners alike.
It grew from a pilot program that started at the Potrero branch in 2011, an effort to encourage library users to lead a more eco-friendly life.
So they can come together and just share with each other, their knowledge of gardening, share their seeds and tips.
All of the seeds are free, no checkout needed. But the hope is that anyone who takes seeds will eventually come back and leave the seeds from their healthiest harvest. The Senior Center's garden has plenty to go around and plenty of volunteers to help with the process.
I have a soft spot for living things. I'd just like to grow them.
I love my surroundings,
That's the main thing.
From the people to the produce.
And it's so satisfying to go to the plant. Sweet. It's a snack bush. Very healthy.
For the body, the soul, and the community.
Well, there are seed lending libraries at 3 branches of the San Francisco Public Library System: Potrero, Portola, and Bayview. Coming up, meet the rescue canines who's training to play a critical role in the potential Bay Area disaster.
This is Pix Plus. More of what you want, more often. More local news in the morning and the primetime edition. The only 8 and 9 p.m. news. With Devin Peely, Elizabeth Cook, Juliette Goodrich, and Sarah Donchi. Groundbreaking original storytelling from the KPIX newsroom. Plus Bear Politics, Project Earth, and weather like you've never seen. The primetime edition. Weeknights on the new Pix Plus. 44 Cable 12.
Well, it's one of the warmest days of the year so far. We're talking about upper 70s and lower 80s as high pressure is parked just offshore of our California coastline, bringing in all this warmth, a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours today. A light breeze moving in from the north, and if you live along the coast near Half Moon Bay, you're in one of the coolest spots all throughout the Bay Area, lasting into the afternoon and evening hours tonight with a little bit more cloud coverage close to our coastline. Now, interestingly enough, we're going to hold on tight to this weather for just a little bit longer tomorrow. Daytime highs remain above average today and tomorrow. We're sitting in the 80s near San Jose, and let's actually pick on San Jose real fast. Using you guys as an example, all of us throughout the Bay will start to cool down into early next week, but for now, we're seeing dry skies and a beautiful opportunity to get out there, do any outdoor activities, and get some fresh air.
Well, this week marks the anniversary of the great 1906 earthquake. The 7.9 magnitude quake was followed by several fires that took days to put out. Historical footage shows the devastation because of those fires. Many builders started using concrete. Some of those buildings are still around today, and while they may be more fire resistant, they are less flexible and could be more susceptible to collapse during a strong earthquake. Mayor London Breed issued a directive yesterday asking certain departments to identify concrete buildings that could collapse during an earthquake and then come up with a retrofit standard.
There are two types of concrete buildings we're talking about here. The first are concrete buildings that don't have enough steel within the concrete, within the columns. You need the steel within the concrete that allows the concrete to move. The other type of concrete building that we have is what we call tilt-ups. It's really where the roof is attached to the walls. When you tilt up those buildings, those roof connections are not always as strong as they should be.
Well, the city estimates there may be as many as 3,400 buildings that may be in the danger zone. They are typically found in downtown parts of Tenderloin, Chinatown, and South of Market areas. Well, the San Francisco Fire Department showed off their most effective tool in finding people in the collapsed structures after earthquakes, who also happens to really like treats. Photojournalist Rick Voller-Roman shows us the behind the scenes for Barney Rescue's training.
It's a scenario no one wants to see play out. An urban search and rescue operation. The objective? Finding someone trapped in rubble after a major earthquake.
Since we have the 1906 earthquake anniversary this week, we want to make sure that the public is aware that San Francisco Fire Department is working constantly to upgrade our capabilities.
Those upgrades include a collaboration between the San Francisco Fire Department, the California Highway Patrol, and FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue Task Force 3. The goal?
To work together to accomplish things we couldn't have done on our own in the past.
More specifically, the use of CHP's helicopter to drop urban search and rescue canines from San Francisco's own agency, allowing the fire department to respond immediately after a major event, and not having to rely on FEMA, which could take up to 6 hours just to deploy. You've seen the CHP helicopter in action before, but you haven't seen Barney, the real hero for today, and the San Francisco Fire Department's most recent high-tech resource in urban search and rescue.
Despite all our technology, the disaster search canine is still the best way to locate people who are trapped in collapsed structures.
After locating a victim, urban search and rescue canines can deploy over and over from location to location. It's a job well done, and for that, Barney gets his favorite treat.
Cheese is like the highest reward that I can give him, but we have to also be very mindful of what we feed them because we don't want them, looking for food rather than looking for people.
Well, Rick tells us this wasn't actually Barney's first line of work. He was bred for service work, but failed out of the service dog program. He was donated to the National Disaster Search Dog Foundation, where he received his training and found his new calling. Well, thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and a look at your top stories. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute. Alaska Airlines flights are back in the